Hello everyone. We had a winner of the PFRE contest recently, and there's always a lot of really good entries, and I found this image particularly nice, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why. Let's start off with this window over here. So I want to get in there a little bit if we can. Just move over a little bit over there, and that's about the best we can do. But you'll notice this window pull is sort of not a window pull. And this is one of those things I'm always saying, we want to sort of go with making a good looking image, and that's a lot of times going to be letting your windows go a little bit more. I think in this case he did a really good job. Some of the critiques I have of this particular window pull, if you look up here, it just sort of doesn't really jive with me that this overhang out here doesn't extend down. So there probably was other ways to handle this. I just feel like it goes from so dark to so light here, and that sort of threw me off a little bit, even though we can sort of get away with that sometimes when we're looking outside and there's a fascia board or something out there, or an overhang, and then down here there's nothing, a blown window. But in this case, I really think he should have maybe, it would have been hard because there's this glass here. That's the other thing, there's a glass in the foreground, so selecting the window may have been a little bit hard. He may have had to differentiate this little segment right here. Let's see, that's as high as I can go. He may have had to differentiate and select that little triangle right there and maybe lighten it up, and then select this one down here, this little trapezoid or whatever it is, and he'd lighten that up a little bit less, if that makes sense, because it's going to be a little darker because it's going through another pane of glass. So that might be how I'd handle that. But yeah, there's some other stuff over here that I think is really noteworthy, and unfortunately I can't get closer. I maybe should have downloaded the photo, but I kind of didn't want to do that. Well, over here, some of this stuff is reflections, and it gets confusing and it can make me look really bad because I can say the wrong thing and it's not actually what's going on. But this over here, it almost looks like a bad clone job or something. If I could zoom in right there, this little piece right here, but I bet it's not. I bet it's a reflection from behind. And if we can see down here, there's like this is the reflection of the bathtub faucet, I think. So this is a little bit of a complicated situation, but a lot of times what I do is, see, I can see this coming down, and so that's the edge of the window, so that should come down over here. So this should be the edge of the window, this larger window, but then it sort of extends over. It's hard to tease out what's going on, so I think this is actually a reflection right here. So this case, it's very confusing, but a lot of times what I'll do, I don't mean to confuse anybody, but I will just make a selection around here and go ahead and get rid of all that stuff. And in this case, it would have been this little strip right here, because I think this is a reflection over here. But I hope you see what I'm getting at. It's just sometimes these weird bouncing reflections from behind you and stuff, if you didn't quite see what I was saying, I think a lot of these reflections are coming from behind us. Like for example, this little reflection right here, that's of the bathtub faucet, okay? And another thing I'll note, so that was difficult. It's sort of not a critique, but just a suggestion for your own photos. A lot of times you can manipulate your windows by just selecting them, and this one's a bit confusing, but you can just sort of manipulate and do some cloning or do some pasting, copying and pasting, however you want to handle it, and make it a bit more clean, because I feel like this is a distracting area, this photo over here, myself. And again, this isn't a critique. When I say that, this isn't something I think he should have done, but just something we can talk about. You can see this reflection right here of the bathtub, and a lot of times if you're doing a commercial job like in an office, there's going to be really bad reflections, and the truth is, I think if you're going to want to do top tier work, you're going to have to handle that. And in this case, I think this looks perfectly natural, perfectly legit, and it's not too distracting, so I want to make that clear. But if he was to try and take care of this reflection, which you're going to have to do in your career, I feel, he would try and wedge himself in between the tub and the glass, which there might be more space than it looks like there is there, I'm betting. Maybe not, maybe there's no space, but he'd have to sort of get a black cloth or something, and you might have to get a few frames and a few different angles. This is one of those tough cases, but as long as he has those frames with the lighting, the correct lighting, you can usually blend them in and get that. So yeah, that would work if you wanted to take away that reflection right there. All right, stuff up here. It's interesting how this light, the top of the shower glass lines up parallel, and then the light, and then the what is it called? I think this is where the water comes out. Although they have a water here too, so maybe that's that's maybe not right. So this thing up here, I may have just gotten rid of that if that's not where the water comes out. And I would completely get rid of this thing for sure. If this was my photo in a contest, I'd get rid of that one, that light there. We don't need that. But I think it's interesting this doesn't line up with parallel, and you'll find that happens sometimes. I think that water does come out of there. You guys can leave in the comments. I think that's one of those waterfall shower features, which you definitely probably want to leave that in the photo in that case. So let's zoom out a little bit here and see what's the next topic. I feel like he could have got a little bit higher here. I just feel like it's a little bit too low. I mean, it almost feels more about the floor here, and I feel like if he got a little bit higher, we'd be seeing this more, because it turns into, when you're looking at something like this, it's nothing, right? You're just seeing the side of it. When you get a little bit higher, this stuff starts to get more surface area in the photo, and it becomes more important. I think that would help the photo. I think seeing more of this and a little bit more of this area too would help the photo, in my opinion. Maybe 6 inches higher here, in my opinion. Okay. I think he should have cloned this out right here, this little switch. That's very distracting, and you'll notice it looks like he focused probably somewhere over here, about halfway through the space, and I'm feeling like this could have been his lens, but it's a little bit lacking sharpness over here, and that's something very common. But for a faucet like this, sometimes you may want to make sure something like that is in focus, so you can go ahead and close down your aperture, maybe one more stop. You're gonna have to add more light with you're gonna lose some power with your lighting, but I just feel like this is looking a bit unclear, but that's not really a big deal. But I think, you know, it's a nice faucet and everything. I think that would have been nicer to get that. Really, it's just maybe more my problem with it is there's something going on with it, like the lighting and the reflections, but I feel like it's just a little soft, and that may have been, it should be in focus, so it's probably his lens just getting a little bit blurry out here. So another thing maybe to ask him is, what f-stops did you shoot at? If he didn't shoot at the sweet spot of his lens, maybe that's what's causing that. So sometimes you can get right to your sweet spot on your lens, whether it's f8 or f5.6. Usually fast lenses will be more at 5.6, and you know, that might cure a little problem like that, which I think that's a very, very minor problem. I wouldn't even it might not even be worthy of calling a problem here. What do you guys think about this thing? I can't quite, what is that thing? That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm not sophisticated enough to understand this stuff, but you're getting in the tub and there's this weird wooden panel here, and I'm wondering what that is. And I think it's fine to include it in the photo, but this is just more of a side shoot. Like, what the hell is that thing? Maybe there's a little step or something over here that we're not seeing. We can't really see in the reflection there, so we don't have too many clues. But yeah, I wonder what that is. And the wood paneling in the shower, that's also interesting that they would choose that. I know wood doesn't really, you know, because you're getting water behind there. This is just sort of an offshoot, but the design features, but you're getting water behind there, and maybe not so kosher, like the water sort of, you know, soaking into the wood and just staying moist. So that's strange little stuff in the design concepts there. Let's jump into this back room. One of the things that jumps out to me is the mirror here, and if you're doing, this is real estate, so we don't want to judge him like, oh god, you screwed up here. It's not about that. It's about if you're on a job and there's something really, what if there was let me try and come with an example. What if there was something really, let's just say something really distracting in this, which there kind of is. This mirror seems like it's warping this wall for some reason or another. I'm not quite sure why, but anyway, mirrors will do that. They'll change colors, they'll warp things, they'll do all sorts of stuff. So what if we wanted to take care of that? Well, I would just walk over to this statue right here and turn around and sort of take a picture. You don't have to be so exact with this either. You just take a picture looking that way, and when you get into Photoshop, I have a whole video up on this. You're just, if I'm thinking right, you're just gonna have to flip it around horizontally and then lay it in there, and make sure you keep that old stuff in there so you can kind of line the floor up and just get things where they're okay. And the cool part about it when you do that is that you don't really have to get it perfect, or you don't have to think, what would they really be seeing from here? You can show a little bit more to the left or to the right, or whatever you think will look better in your photo, as long as the floor is kind of lining up and stuff. But so that would be a quick way to take care of that. You just, of course, have to mask out this area right here, which it's hard for me to tell. I'm sort of sitting outside right now in the bright sun, but this almost looks like a mirror with some curtains on it or something, or maybe it's just wood, but whatever it is, it's sort of interesting. I wish I could see it better, but yeah, that's my take on that and how to handle that. It looks like the couch was a little askew here, and that might have just been sort of the design concept in that room. We can't really get a good idea of that, but I don't have too much of a problem with that. I actually like one of the things that I try and do often is this bathroom feels a certain brightness level to me. Like if we're looking over here, it's a certain brightness. I feel like what he's done here is he's made that far room a little bit darker, and I like that. It doesn't matter which way you go. Maybe another time you felt like the back room was more important, so you made your foreground area a little bit darker and then the back a little bit lighter. But try not to make them the same intensity, because what tends to happen there is you lose that depth, and it just all sort of starts to feel like it's the same depth away, and it gets really flat. And I think this is a really important concept. If you're lighting adjacent rooms, go darker or lighter in the far room or the close room. You guys see what I'm saying? Just go dark, make them different, differentiate them. Okay, that's the main point. And you sort of can ask yourself, what's more important? Maybe I want to go lighter with the room that's more important, which I think is what he did here. The bathroom is obviously more important here, and he went lighter with that, a little bit darker back here, and I like that. Yeah, that couch bugs me a little bit. That's not something we're really in the scope of taking care of on a real estate shoot, and I don't think there's anything really he could have done back there except for that one thing with the mirror. That sort of warping right there is, I think that could possibly be distracting even to a layman, even not someone like me who's trying to nitpick. That could sort of throw anybody off if they're looking at this photo. It's just something, even if you're not thinking about it, you look at a photo and you're like, your mind is telling you in the subconscious, even a layman, like there's some warped thing back there that's weird. Okay, so that's something I'd want to take care of. Yeah, let's see. I have a little list here so I don't forget. Reflections. So the saturation, and a photo like this, you'll notice what he did. Let's see if we can get in here again. It's too bad I didn't download the photo. It would have helped some of these examples, but we're going to get in here close. And notice when you look at just this area of the photo, for example, or just some of these areas that are sort of lacking color, it looks like a black and white photo. If you just black out that that wooden thing right there, it looks like a black and white photo. And this is a technique you can do in these white spaces where it's really easy. What you'll have to do is, I'm not even guessing what he did, but I'm just telling you, I've done stuff like this before, and you'll select around your things that have color in the room, and you can go ahead and take the color out a multitude of different ways in the areas where there's really something, everything else doesn't have color, right? So these areas right here, you're going to have to make pretty good selections. I think color is a lot more forgiving a lot of times, so it's a lot easier to make selections and manipulate the color of things. But yeah, what I'm noticing is black and white, and this is sort of a technique to take care of your color problems. I just feel like sometimes if you go a bit too far with it, which a little bit of a critique here is I feel maybe he did here, he may have had like a color fixing layer, and what you can do a lot of times is just completely fix your colors, select around all this stuff with colors that you like, desaturate everything, but try and bring back, I'd say, like, my critique to him is I'd try and bring back the real sort of natural opacity of some of this stuff on that layer. Even the outside here, you can see, as I was saying, is going sort of black and white, and that sort of throws off your eye. It's cool too, that's why I'm saying do it. I like the technique, but don't go too far, which I feel like he's done here. And that would be sort of my major critique of this photo. If you go in up here, I don't have my little color picker tool in Photoshop or anything, but I would almost guess that if you put a little color picker on there or something, the RGB values would be coming up equal. Okay, so a little bit too far in my opinion with that. Let's see what else I have. I noticed in the comments, first of all, somebody left a really rude comment on in the actual contest, and I thought that was really tacky, first of all, just so whoever that was, don't do that anymore if you're watching this video, which you're probably not, but the guy commented on the window, and I thought it was so ironic that he made the comment that, well, why did this one win? It's like the window's not controlled, and this is like, I try and drive the... That's why he won, okay? That is why he won, guy. I'm going to talk a little bit rude because I thought the guy was rude, but that is why he won. So get it in your brain, controlling things. Try and think of people who control things when it comes to art. Like, I want to control this. I want to control everything. That's not what's making good art, okay? He let that window go. He sort of saw that this was going to look much better in this space, which it tends to do in bathrooms and kitchens and stuff like this a lot of times. So to that guy who was rude, I'm being rude back to you. Yeah, you need to sort of understand that letting your control go, just because you can control everything doesn't mean that you should. All right, you should definitely let things go according to your eye and not be so concerned about control. It's about making a photo that looks good. You can't forget that, or else it's easy to get in there and make that window darker, and then his lighting doesn't make as much sense, and all sorts of havoc starts to play with the photo. So don't leave weird tacky comments like that, for one. And then number two, in your own work, maybe, let your windows go a little bit more, and that's part of the whole process of making a good photo. Trying to judge whether or not you should let that window go or not just controlling it every time because it needs to be controlled and because you can. That's a mistake. Okay, I think this is a great image, and that's why I wanted to talk about this one. So good job. I believe his name was Peter. Good job, Peter. Did I get Matt? I'm sorry about that, Matt. Okay, sorry about that, but yeah, good job. And thanks for watching, everyone. That'll about do it. Leave a comment if you disagree or agree with any of the stuff I said. And thanks, guys, and I'll see you for the next one.